Hey, everybody, welcome back to Prince's Friend, exploring music through Prince. I said it right this time. I am back again with part 3 of my conversation with Chris Lacey. And we talked about the Black Album and we talked about Lovesexy. And now we're going to discuss the differences between the two, the similarities between the two, and which one do we think comes out on top as the most impactful album in Prince's career. Not the best, because best is subjective, but which one is the most impactful? Maybe. We'll see. Thank you for coming back on the show, Chris.
Thank you, man. Yeah, after the way part 2 ended, I hope they're sticking around for part 3.
I don't see how they can't. I'm here, you're here. Let's have some fun with it. So let's hit the Black Album first. Let's just each of us pose what is our biggest pro for the album, and then what is our biggest con for the album. So I'll let you start.
The biggest pro for the Black Album for me, musically, it's a continuation of what he's already done, between Sign of the Times, Madhouse, that kind of thing in terms of funk. But then as far as the lyrical content, it is sort of a throwback to the raunchiness of Dirty Mind, Controversy. So I think he's been able to blend those elements really well. Con, I would say, kind of what I said in part 1 is that when he, released it in 1994, some of that legacy, some of that mystique had gone away. So I think since then, people are still, you'll still find a pocket of folks that are like, yeah, like that's a top 10 album. I have a really good friend of mine, Jahan. He's with the Music Snobs podcast. It's in his top 3. Like he loves the Black Album. But for me personally, I think that when he, kind of included it in the contractual obligation, some of that mystique had been lost. And plus, it was 7 years after the fact when he recorded it.
Yeah, I feel you there. I think that has to do also with hype, right?
Yes.
Like I use this analogy every so often, but like I recently saw Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and I was pretty much told that it was like the second coming of movie animation and it was the best movie like ever made. And then I watched it and I was like, this is good. And I think honestly, had it not already been built up so much in my mind, I might have not expected as much going into it. And maybe it would have surprised me, and then I would have been, oh my God, this is so great. Mm-hmm. And I think that also, this isn't my con, this is me kind of bouncing off of your point there.
Sure.
But I think that that's also part of why, like, possibly I didn't enjoy the album as much when I got it. So, because it was one thing was like what you said, where it was like part of the 1994 contractual obligation. It didn't really fit with the rest of the music that was out at the time. Like it was out of place in its release, in its official release later on. But also I think because it had been such a bootleg thing and it had been built up so much that when I finally heard it, I was expecting this like amazing underground thing. And then like we got the Black Album, which is good. It's like, it's basically like that. It's like, it's a good album. I think my biggest pro for the Black Album is actually the inclusion of the Lovesexy band. And I did mention that in part 1, but I think I want to double down on that because, I didn't go much into it, but the fact that, Prince took a lot of stuff from Sign of the Times, like Squirrel Meat and like, stuff like that, and included it on this album, all of these like really like things that were weird during the Sign of the Times tour that he kind of took and he made it into something on the Black Album. Mm-hmm. And the Lovesexy band was like a full part of this album. It was no longer just Prince. It was Prince and Kat was on there rapping. So it was a bunch of that stuff, right? Where you could tell that it like Sign of the Times was such a Prince thing. And I think one of the big things going into the Black Album and Lovesexy, but Black Album, I think even more so, was that it did feel like it wasn't just Prince. It felt like it had influences from the other people in the band, which I always like that when Prince does that, when he does kind of let people in, because I have a thing. It's it's a phrase that I use. I don't use it a lot anymore. I used it when I first started the channel a lot, but it's the bullshit filter. And, you know, what ends up happening is when you have a person who is one person, they're going to make this album and they're going to write all the songs and they're going to do all the production, they're going to do all the stuff. It doesn't always work out because they don't have a bullshit filter. They're just thinking everything I'm putting out there is great. And sometimes you need a person to come in and go like, you might want to change that, you know. It's like, so, you know, and honestly, I felt like that was possibly a little bit of why, also maybe why like Sign of the Times wasn't necessarily, you know, my favorite album that he ever did. And it was because he had kind of gone into his own mind and he was like, almost the entire thing, I believe, was like him, and it was just him. But he broke out of that with the Black Album. So I would say he did that even more with the Black Album than he did with the Lovesexy, which is why I'm making it the pro for the Black Album. I think my con for the Black Album was its aggression, and I think its message was overall a negative one. If you go track by track in the Black Album, there isn't even necessarily, I mean, except for one song, and we're going to get to that after we go over our pros and cons, but there's one song that like, it's a great song and that's why it survived over to Lovesexy. But like the rest of the songs, like every single one of them has like some sort of negative aspect to it. So, and for me, you know, going from Sign of the Times, which was it wasn't necessarily a positive album, but it had Play in the Sunshine, it had It, and it had like Adore on it. Like it had a lot of great positive things that it did. It was jarring, you know, kind of going over into the Black Album because it didn't necessarily fit into the flow of things, into the flow of his creativity. I think that might also be a reason why he pulled it back, because he's just like, this is just me reacting. This isn't even part of my evolution. This is just me saying, you know, F you guys, you know, but no, I shouldn't have done that. I'm going to take it back and I'm going to go the way that I should have gone. So anyway, those are my pros and cons. I'm going to stop because I'll just start rambling.
No. I love I love your analysis on that. Because again, when you look at the trajectory of where he was going, like for me, 85 to 88, that's his psychedelic patch. You know, so when you look at, you know, just the tone of it, you know, Around the World in the Day just opens up and it's like this utopia of like anything is possible, and then you go into Parade and it's just like there's so much positivity just overflowing from that. And I think a lot of it had to do with his closeness with Wendy and Lisa, who were his closest collaborators, you know, on a lot of those songs. And then Sign of the Times, like you said, there's some dark spots here and there, but the overall vibe of it, you know, he's focusing on God through the cross, and he's focusing on different aspects of love, you know, with, you know, If I Was Your Girlfriend and Adore, Forever My Life, you know, which I agree with you that Forever My Life is also a song to God, but you and I are on the same page there. And then also talking about peace, you know, the importance of peace, you know, and I think that is at the core of the song Sign of the Times, is that, there's frustration, but he's also calling for peace in that way.
Yeah.
So all those elements, you know, love, God, and peace, those are the ingredients for, you know, for his music going forward. So for him to come in with Black Album, it's like, we're taking a significant step backwards here in terms of tone.
Yeah. All right. So that's the Black Album. Let's do Lovesexy.
Yeah.
Biggest pro, biggest con. You're going to let me go first?
Yeah.
I think the biggest pro for me and for Lovesexy is its spirituality. I guess I don't know the right terms, but like, you know, I'm not a Christian. I'm not one who worships God. I'm not a man of God, as you say, or a man of faith. For me, though, listening to Prince's music, it was always like, I don't have to be a member of his club to enjoy how much he loves being in that club. You know, like he's singing about it, and he is so happy singing about it that it makes me happy. I don't have to be a part of it. You know what I mean? You know, I am actually all for just enjoying other people enjoying things. And for me, this was just like his overall like super, super positive album, super spiritual album. You know, it made me question my relationship with my own spirituality, with my own, outlook on life and my place in the universe. Like it, really, if you dig deep, it can bring up almost like an epiphany for anybody who's listening to it. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was written as an epiphany to his own journey and his own struggles, but like literally it has so much on this album that anybody can listen to it and take away something from it. And you don't have to believe in God to enjoy Prince music. Side note, that was one of my big things that I was trying to say with my Prince was a modern day sage video,
Mm-hmm.
was that because a lot of people like commented and they're like, if he wasn't a sage, he was a prophet. And I'm like, well, he's a prophet. I mean, a prophet is basically a sage that you want to attach a religion to. For me, a sage is just somebody who came and he was really wise and he had a lot of lessons to teach. And do you follow those lessons or do you not? If you want to attach a religion to that, then it becomes more of a prophet kind of thing, prophet, messiah, and probably not a messiah too much, but prophet, So anyway, that's side tangent there. But I feel like Lovesexy was like the very first album where we got to see like no veil, like no barriers. We got to see that side of Prince. Everything else had been very, de-elevator and, stuff like that. It was very kind of cloaked. I even said like later on, like he was way more outgoing and like just said it like straight up, like change the cross to the Christ.
Yeah.
Like he obviously did that later on, but even on Lovesexy, he just was so forthright with it. There was no hiding. He was proud of it.
Mm-hmm.
And like that was a turn on for me musically. Like I was listening to that and I'm just like, you get that, man. You do that. Like, yeah, you get it. I think my biggest con for me musically, like thematically, it definitely works. I think going like from the beginning of the album to the end of the album, I think it begins strong and it ends strong. But it does go in a lot of different directions that I could see how it could be jarring for somebody to listen to this and get a cohesive message out of it. I feel like that might be something with like sequencing, like we had discussed sequencing before. Like that might just be a thing of like rearranging some tracks and stuff. Although like in my brain, everything flows great, but I'm trying to like, I go back to like, I remember the first time I listened to it and I'm just like, okay, so we're gonna start with like a poppy song and then we're gonna go to, Alphabet Street, which is, a little bit even more poppy, so awesome. Then we go into Glam Slam, which is a little bit more rock. Then we go into Anastasia, which is more piano based. And I love it when Prince switches styles and stuff all throughout an album. So it's not necessarily a con for me, but I see it as a con for the album being appealing to people who aren't me. So because honestly, like I listen to albums where everything sounds the same, and you do stay consistent in tone and all that stuff, and I'm like, this is a boring album, but like I want you to go off in left field and do something completely different. Do it mid-song. I don't care. Throw something at me. I need difference. Hopefully that made sense. I rambled a lot. It's your go.
No, I get the gist of what you're saying, and yeah, I would agree with you that in terms of tone, it is a lot to take in. It requires repeat listens to really grasp everything that he's taking in. So I can see how for some that would be a con, is that it is so much to take in. It's so dense that there's so much content to absorb at one time. And then to your pro, I love the fact that its spirituality is a turn on for you, knowing that you're not a religious person. Like that just says so much about him, is that he felt the strong conviction, artistically and spiritually, that he wanted to share with everybody. And there are folks that gravitated to it and others that didn't. But to me, that is the core of great art, is that it's going to elicit a response of some sort. Either you're going to like it or you're not going to like it.
Exactly. I mean, and I've said this before, but like Prince wrote a song called God during his Purple Rain tour where he sold out entire stadiums. He would have entire stadiums singing God made you, God made me.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody was just singing along like it was just nothing. Not all those people believe in God, but he brought each of them closer to the level that he was on, you
Yeah.
know?
The other point that I wanted to make
Yeah.
about the spirituality piece is that there was a documentary that came out in '89 around the time that he was recording the Batman material, and it also encompassed a lot of the Lovesexy stuff. There was a fan that had attended the Lovesexy tour, and he had said, for him to get 30,000 people to all scream back, "Love is God, God is love," and you may not even have the same opinion, like you can't help but want to be a part of that. Like I'm paraphrasing, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was whenever he was in Europe during that whole stretch
Yeah.
that a fan was being interviewed about it, and that to me was super super cool. That people still they were jumping on board with it, even if they don't believe if they don't have the same conviction that he does. They respect the fact that he was so passionate about it.
Exactly. It's like, like I like to be around passionate, happy people.
Mm-hmm.
I like to be around people who are going to push each other. Like your thing is dancing and my thing is making video content. But like if you're I'm not going to dance. I'm not going to do that with you, but I love seeing you dance and seeing how happy the dance makes you. Bam. I don't have to be a dancer to enjoy you being happy about your dance. That's
Right.
kind of how I feel about it. You know what I mean?
That's a great analogy. It's a great analogy. And up until you and I first started talking, like, as far as like, messaging each other, and, now I'm doing videos with you, which it still blows my mind. But years ago when I saw the topics that you covered and doing your album reviews and, reviewing, his EPs and stuff like that, like just the sheer amount of joy that I saw in you and talking about that music, and then even taking more controversial takes. Like you're like, hey, I understand people may not agree with this, but here's my understanding of it.
Yeah.
And then you welcome other people and their feedback like that. Who doesn't want to be a part of that stuff?
I've tried to join other communities, and a lot of them are just like, no, that's wrong, and now we're going to ostracize you. It's like, no, it's cool. Like we don't have to all agree on stuff. Was all that me? So you still have to do your pro and con.
Yeah, I'm still doing my pro and con. that was me responding to your pro and con.
I had just said like this one's not going to take as long. It's like, nope, we have a lot to say still.
Yeah. Yeah, this is definitely part 3.
Yeah.
So the biggest pro to me is that Lovesexy gave us his ultimate concert experience. Because you got to think the first half is, the raunchy stuff, from Erotic City to, Housequake. And, of course, there's parts of Adore and all that stuff in there.
Yeah.
But the majority of it is his raunchy side. It all comes to a head with Bob George. And then at the end of that number, he's looking up at the sky praying to God, and all of a sudden it goes black and you hear a gunshot. And then it goes into Anesthesia, and then it goes into the rest of the Lovesexy songs, essentially. So it's like you're getting musical theater right there in front of you. Act 1 is the raunchy side, the sinful side per se. And then you have that breaking point with Bob George, and then Act 2 is the spiritual side of Prince. So you really get both sides of them in that regard. So to me, that's the ultimate concert experience, and I'm dying for the estate to restore and remaster his Lovesexy tour, where he was in Dortmund, Germany, I think.
Yeah, I have like a bootleg of that. It's not
so
that great. Yeah.
So I would love to get that in Blu-ray quality or 4K, whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
Let people see the ultimate concert experience, and that to me is the Lovesexy tour.
That concert was really good.
Oh my gosh, it is phenomenal. And you got to think the different change ups. Like he would start with one song and then he would immediately go into something else and then go into another song. And then he would come back to the original song like 4 songs later. Like it's just fun. Like his mind was just all over the place. And the musical portrait documentary I was telling you about that came out in '89, Eric Leeds and a couple other people in the band were talking about just trying to keep up with Prince's imagination. Like it was so taxing because every show was different. It's like you're over here thinking, okay, like I'm trying to get this to muscle memory, but Prince is like, now he's going over here and now he's over there. It's like you couldn't keep up with them. You couldn't
Yeah.
keep up with them. So again, to me, the biggest pro is that it gave us the ultimate concert experience of Prince. If there's one show I needed to see before I die, which would it be? And I'd be like, pick any show from the Lovesexy tour.
Yeah, that Lovesexy show was really, really good.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. As far as cons going, man, it pains me because I love this album. I would have to say Dance On.
What? We are opposites.
I know. I'm sorry. I know. And don't get me wrong, Dance On is a good, like, I'm having to nitpick here when I do this. I'm nitpicking when I say this. Dance On, when you compare it to the rest of the songs that are on that album, for me, it's at the bottom of the bunch for me. And if I had to replace it with something, it would have to be the outtake Cross the Line. Like, if you put that in the mix, like, to me, you have a perfect album from top to bottom.
Wow. Okay.
Across the Line is an outtake that he recorded with Bonnie Boyer, and it's got a lot of gospel funk to it, and and then towards the end, Bonnie Boyer starts singing "Precious Lord, Take My Hand." Like, it's a very popular hymn within the Christian community. But yeah, it's just Prince, just taking basically just taking the whole Lovesexy album and kind of refining it into Cross the Line. It's a heavy step to make. It takes time. All it takes is one step to cross that line and really enjoy and understand the spiritual epiphany that he's just gone through.
Yeah.
And
I can see that too. If you with that theme, that concept of a song in between Anesthesia and Lovesexy.
Yes, thank you.
Like that, you're right. Like that. Probably just thematically, that is the perfect song to go in between those two songs.
Put a dead set in the middle. And yeah, just, that is, man, God, like it makes perfect sense. And again, I love Dance On. Like, being a dancer, I love dancing to that song. Yeah.
All right. So final verdict then. We've gone over pros, we've gone over cons. Which one do you think would come out on top? I guess is what I'll say. I'm not going to say the best or, whatever, but just like, which one would you choose? I guess to be the one that comes out on top.
Yeah. I think part 2 was kind of a dead giveaway. If anyone is still on board, they haven't jumped off the ship yet. So, easily Lovesexy, because, like I said, it is the most influential album to me in his entire discography. You get the full outlook of who he is as an artist and as a person. And then, with it, like I said, being the ultimate concert experience, it gave us all facets of Prince. Yeah. And it was during what many say is his golden age period from 78 to 88, that 10-year run. To me, like, that is a huge high point for him artistically, as far as like making music on an album, and then also as a live performer, you get all of it in one.
Yeah. Definitely Lovesexy. And I think it had a lot to do with the order in which I heard the Black Album, but also just, Lovesexy was what I was waiting for. Like, my heart was waiting for Lovesexy to come out. And the Black Album was definitely not Lovesexy. That's not to say that the Black Album's bad, but I think that, I think I'm on board with you. Like, if I was to say, like, what album would I give somebody to let them know what it is to be a Prince friend, and like, what is Prince about? Like, like, it probably wouldn't just be one album. I'd have to give them at least like 3. Like, I'd have to give them at least 3 or 4 different albums. Whoever I was giving it to, I'd be like, what are you into? All right, listen to this one and listen to this one. But Lovesexy probably would be in the mix no matter who it was, because I think that it is such a fundamental Prince album. You recently asked me, like, what was my top 10 Prince albums. It's not something that I share, like, on my channel, but you will remember Lovesexy was on that list, and it was pretty high on that list. It wasn't number one. It wasn't number one, but it was really high on the list. So yeah, I mean, definitely, Lovesexy wins for me, just for all of the reasons.
For all of the reasons.
Just all of the reasons.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of ties into what you know, Lovesexy being the superior project. I think you have so many 5-star compositions on that album.
Yeah.
To me, where it dips a bit would be Dance On. Like, and again, that's nitpicking.
And Dance On is a good song.
Yes.
But, you know, from the way you explained it, yeah, thematically, it probably would fit even better if the other song was on there. You know what? I want to thank you so much, Chris, for coming and being in this 3-part series that we're going to have here. It's been a ball having you back on the channel, and we'll see what we can do about maybe getting you back on again. I don't know what topic we'll talk about, but we'll come up with something. I think it'll be great.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for coming back, man. I appreciate that.
No, man, thank you so much. And again, to your followers, the folks that were asking for me to come back, man, thank you so much. Like, it's still, again, I have to pinch myself because, again, I'm just a regular guy that loves great music. So for you to reach out to me and be like, hey, Chris, like, you know, I know that you love Prince. I love Prince. Like, let's talk. Like, let's talk about it, you know? So like that, and that's what this is. And I hope that people that watch this video, not only do I want you guys to share it and that kind of thing, but engage in the same conversations that we're having right now with the people that you know. Because that's the key to keeping Prince's legacy alive, is that people know, you know, why does the music matter so much to us? You know, because years from now, like once we're dead and gone, like his music's still going to be here, and we have to make sure that for the folks in the future, you know, they're going to be in control of the narrative. You know, what story are they going to tell? We want it to be as accurate as possible, because he needs to be mentioned along with the Mozarts and the Sebastian Bachs of the world. Like, to me, he's up there in terms of musical genius. So we need to make sure that we need to make sure we're telling the right story.
Yeah. And also, when you're having those conversations, make sure that you're having them in the same way that we're having them, where it's cool for us to disagree. Like, as much as me and Chris like each other, apparently we have completely different tastes in Prince music, and that's okay. Like, hey, you can like I Wish You Heaven. It's awesome. I like that song too. It's just not my favorite. You know, it's like, it's okay. You know, everybody doesn't have to conform to the way that everybody else thinks, and because it's art. And, you know, I can look at a canvas with a blue streak on it and go, that's just a blue streak. And you'd be like, no, but it symbolizes the deepness of my soul. You don't understand. Like, okay, cool. That's awesome. You know, that's fine. And that's cool, because that's art. We all interpret art in our own way, and we all embrace it in our own way. So, and Prince is nothing if not an artist. And each of his songs and his albums and his works are all individual compositions of art that need to be appreciated. And that's why I pay so much individual attention to the albums and the songs and stuff, is because I really feel like each one is its own, like, art. So, but thank you for coming back on the show. Again, I really, really appreciate your time and, you know, your introspective view of these, you know, songs and these albums that, again, they do differ from mine, which honestly, that makes the conversation a lot more interesting.
It does. Yeah. Because if we were just saying, yeah, I think the same thing, like, it would be such a short conversation.
It really would be.
We wouldn't need 3 parts. It could just be done in one, you know?
Yeah. Well, and it's funny, though, because we both ended up picking Lovesexy at the end for completely different reasons.
Exactly.
So anyway, but thank you so much for coming, and thank you for watching this 3-part series. You know, again, I want to thank Chris for coming on and being a guest, but definitely make sure that you hit the like button, subscribe button, hit the bell so you always get the notes, all that stuff. Hit the patreon.com/princessfriend, and may you live to see the dawn. Love you all. See you guys next time.